So I thought, hey, since I like medieval kingdom so much, how about I take a dystopian type society and
Mhm,
put it in a medieval kingdom and see how that
mhm,
works?
mhm.
That's how I come up with a lot of my ideas. I just take one thing that I like and another thing that I like and put it together.
Welcome to Story Power, a bi-monthly podcast where my guests and I geek out about the stories we're passionate about in all different genres, styles, and formats. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and I started this podcast in the summer of 2020 at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. As I watched the reaction of my friends, family, and social media circle, I noticed that many people turned to stories for comfort and help in making sense of the craziness going on around them. My goal was to do the same for my listeners. But as I chatted with my guests throughout the first year, I discovered that their personal stories were the most fascinating thing about each episode. Neil Gaiman says, fairy tales are more than true not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. I now know that sharing our experiences with others helps us defeat our own dragons. It is our stories that connect us to one another. Let's see what wisdom today's guest has to share with us. Today is episode 64, Sarah, and I'm talking to Sarah Humpherys. She likes to call herself a teenage author. And I noticed that you have a book called Stone Cold, but you also said on your Podmatch profile that you have 6 other books, and I wanted to know if they were all published.
No, they are definitely not all published. That would take forever.
So Stone Cold, you got a publisher when you were 16 and now you're a senior in high school. Can you tell us about that process?
Okay, well, it was a long time ago and it took a long time. Basically, I was 15 and I was just starting my first year of high school, and my neighbor came over and said, hey, there's this cool writing program that I heard of called the Calliope Inner Circle, and there's this New York Times bestselling author called Angie Fenimore that basically teaches people how to write books. And at the end, we're able to pitch to agents that she knows, and it's this huge process. It's 6 months long. Would you like to join? And well, I've always written my entire life. I've always wanted to be a published author. That would just be amazing to someone who was just starting high school. But so I was like, oh, I don't know what this experience will be. This is interesting. It costs a lot of money and I have to go to school and do this online program at the same time, but we'll try it. We'll see how it goes. And so in 2019 and up to the start of 2020, I basically went through this writing program where they gave me writing advice, and I talked with the other students over Zoom, and everyone was 30 years old and I was 15. So I felt a little bit alienated, like, hi guys, it's you're here. How are you guys doing? I'm sure you have kids that are my age. But I got to meet a lot of great people and I got to know a lot. And I went through it with my dad. He supported me. And at the end, we were able to pitch to publishing agents from New York that the author knew. And I got accepted by one of them. So
That's really
that's how I got.
cool. And then it takes a couple of years to get the book
Oh,
ready.
yes. Oh, my gosh. Like I was talking to them December of 2020. I had finished the program like January, February, April, March. Can't remember exactly when I finished it. But in December, I had finally sent the book in, and they were like, "Okay, yeah, this will work out great. We can squeeze you in for the January 2022 spot for our launchings." For all of our books. This is amazing. It's really fast. And I'm like, is this how the publishing world usually works? This is really slow.
Really, it is slow, which is why someone like me, who's in her 60s, decided to independently publish. I decided
Yeah,
to.
it's certainly a lot faster.
Yes. The only thing is, I have to do my own marketing and promotion and stuff like that. So,
Well, I have to too, honestly, because the publisher that I went to, they're kind of small. They don't do a whole lot of marketing on their own, so
Mhm.
they were basically like, "Hi, we'll get your book in bookstores, but that's it."
Oh my
they
goodness.
they sent me like a huge paper list of like all this stuff that I need to do to market my book, and
Oh,
that's funny. So that's why I'm on podcasts talking, because I need to
yes,
market.
that's right. So, did you join Podmatch? Was that one of the things they had on their list? Was to join a service like Podmatch?
Yeah, actually, they one of the things that they recommended was find an outlet in which you can
Mm.
promote your book, like podcasts, YouTube
Mhm,
videos, stuff like that.
mhm,
So that's what
mhm.
I'm doing.
Yeah. So now I'm interested to know what your book is about because it sounds like it's a little bit of a fantasy.
Oh
And
yes.
and you said you love fantasy and anime. And so tell us about your book.
Okay, well, my book has nothing to do with anime, sadly, but um, but it is a fantasy book that is a romance, and it is about a kingdom where everyone wears these enchanted gemstones that take away emotion, and that is
Oh.
basically their society. They don't want emotion. There's a war going on, a lot of suffering, so they just don't want that. And but there are some people that the stones don't work on, and those
Mhm.
people are hunted down and executed because they're not fit to be in their perfect society. And the main character is the princess of this kingdom who happens to be one of those people that the stones don't work on. So she basically has to hide herself and pretend to be motionless and just try to survive basically, and that's the story. She has to deal with a lot of stuff. Like the inciting incident is her brother dying, her brother who is
Oh.
the crown heir, so now she's crown heir, and now everyone's like putting more pressure on her. And it's a romance, so there's a love triangle between
Yeah.
a guard and a handsome faraway prince. So it it was this book is, for me at least, was 50% wish fulfillment and 50% getting over anxiety and emotion.
Oh, yes, right. Wow, that sounds fascinating. So, did you like how did you get your inspiration for the book? Did you get it from some other fantasy novel or
Well, I do like exclusively read kingdom books. I love
Mm,
fantasy kingdoms. I will never ever ever get tired of it. It is so
mhm,
awesome. So I almost exclusively write medieval fantasy kingdoms.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
but I also really like emotionless societies like the Giver, Delirium. I don't know, Diversion almost. But
mhm,
like
mhm,
where they have to, I don't know, take away a part of themselves, the human
mhm,
experience, psychology, stuff like that. I love stuff like that too. So I thought, hey, since I like medieval kingdom so much, how would I take a dystopian type society and
mhm,
put it in a medieval kingdom and see how that
mhm,
works?
mhm.
That's how I come up with a lot of my ideas. I just take one thing that I like and another thing that I like and put it together.
And mash them together. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. I'm going to go divergent, haha, and ask
Oh
and ask
boy.
you how you liked the ending of that series.
Okay, actually, I did not finish it. I know how it ends, but I did not.
Yes,
I know something about the main character dying, but I
yes.
think yes, yeah, but I didn't finish it. I read the first one and then I read the second one, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to read the Hunger Games instead of this series.
Yes. Well, one of my acting students, she was in high school at the time when she was taking my college acting class. And she was reading that series and she said, "Oh yeah, it's a really great series." But she was only on the first book. And then as the semester went along and she got to the third book, she said, "Oh no, I'm I'm not sure you're going to like it, but I was already reading it by then. and yeah, I didn't like it very well, but oh well. The first 2 books were great.
Yeah, I like the world building in it.
Yes. Yes, that was good. Yes. Yeah. So what are your favorite series?
Well, I've read almost, I can't remember. I think the last tally that I read for books that I've read is like 300 something. So like my pop literature teacher put down a piece of paper and told us, hey, write down every single book you've ever read. And I'm thinking, that's really hard. I'm gonna need another piece of paper. You have no idea how much. Like other people in the class were like, The Hunger Games, Percy Jackson, Harry Potter. I'm done. Turns it in. So I have read way too much to say favorite series. Let's see. My gateway fantasy series, the first real fantasy series that I ever read was Percy Jackson. I love that series. It got me into Greek mythology. And let's see. I really like dragons too. It's my favorite aspect of fantasy. So I like a lot of dragon book series, Aragon, Wings of Fire, stuff like that. I don't know. The thing that I'm reading right now is called Three Dark Crowns, and it's about these sisters that have to kill each other to take their crown. And I love something like that. I think it's so dramatic and fun, and I'm like, oh, which sister will kill the other two and and be the queen. So I don't know, that could be my favorite series because the series that I'm always reading at the time is always my favorite.
Your favorite.
So that can be my favorite.
That's kind of how it is with me too, in not only in books, but movies. So people will say, what's your favorite movie? And I'm saying, okay, well, what era, what genre, what actor?
Is it animated? Is it live action?
Well, we don't watch a whole lot of animated now that
I don't watch live action.
Because we're pretty old, we're pretty old. I mean, the new animated stuff, we don't. Unless it's Pixar, and then we might watch it. But yeah, we did watch Encanto the other day.
That movie is blowing up. Yeah,
that was fun. But I was wondering if you've ever heard of A.D. Trosper. She writes a whole bunch of books about. Her name is Audra. She writes a whole bunch of books about dragons that you might like.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you the titles. I've read 2 of her series, 2 separate ones, and one of them doesn't have very many. One of them doesn't have very many dragons in it, but it's really interesting fantasy series. I get her mixed up with her friend Stacy. Stacey Bennett also writes really great fantasy. So, and they're friends, and they're writing partners, and yeah, so I'll send you their stuff. But the dragons, I was thinking, oh, you might like A.D. Trosper's Dragon series.
Dragons.
I think it's called the Dragon Call series or something like that, where a dragon and a rider are like linked together, and then they.
I'm still going to read the series, because it's dragons, but also I have read a whole lot of very, very, very good book series that have to do with a dragon and human relationship. Fledgling by, I cannot remember her name, but anyway, that series, I read that one and that was fantastic. So How to Train Your Dragon, Dragon Riders, I don't know.
Yeah.
Aragon.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that concept has been done a lot, but I will still read it because it's dragons.
Yes. Well, it's dark dragons and light dragons. Yeah.
I always like it when an author does different species of dragons, because it's always like just the one dragon, the one treasure hoarding, big scaly fire breathing monster dragon. But yeah.
The dragons that are good are different colors and have different, and they and their writers have different thing, like magical things that they can do. And then there are the dark dragons that are trying to take over everything and control everything. So that's kind of a fun little concept there.
Okay.
Yeah. So have you read anything like The Wheel of Time? Did you ever read that?
um, I do not normally read high fantasy. However, I got the first book for Christmas, and I really want to read it. I have not gotten to it yet.
I've only read the first book, and it's like there are 14 in the series. And I said, that might take me a while.
Yeah. Like, you got to get through everything else first before I put a big emotional investment in this.
Right. Well, and I also read the first Foundation book because we watched both Wheel of Time and Foundation. And so I read the first Foundation book. So both of those have a lot of books. And I said, I'll just read them a little at a time.
Yeah.
Because, I like to watch the thing first and then read the book, because then because I'm a visual person. So if I see the pictures, then I can translate those from the TV or movie to the book. But when somebody's like describing all this stuff in the book, I'm like, I can't quite picture it for some reason. I don't know why that is. So the character emotion, the emotional part I get really well, but because I have a theater background, so I get that part. But yeah, when they're describing like landscapes and rooms, and I'm like, what? I don't get that.
Actually, I just skip it. I can read 200 pages of a fantasy book just during the school day, and can finish it in the evening. And everyone is wondering, like, oh, how do you read so fast? You must read so fast. And I'm like, no, I just skip all of the description.
So when you were writing your book, how did they make you do those kinds of things? Put descriptions of rooms and clothing and body language?
Well, yeah, but if someone were to skip them, I couldn't blame them, I guess. Kind of hard to get through a big paragraph of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings, just describing the Shire for the first like 2 chapters or something.
Right. Yes. Well, another podcast guest and I were talking about something that she said made me think of Moby Dick. And I have never read Moby Dick, but I guess there are all these chapters about whales and their life cycle and what they eat and where they swim and all this stuff. And I said, I think I'd probably be skipping all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I like biology and animals, so maybe, but
so you might read it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm like, what?
But that's like a whole other book in itself,
Yeah. It's like the author should have just written a science anthology about whales and not.
Yeah, really. Yes, really. Yes. So what are your favorite books that you have that they make you read in school?
Well, I cheated a little bit, actually, because I have taken a lot of English classes that are titled, pop literature, study sci-fi, fantasy. So a lot of the books that my English teachers make me read are not the normal To Kill a Mockingbird type books. They are fantasy books. And so I got to read Skyward by Brandon Sanderson and Red Rising and Steelheart. So those were fun. I don't really know any of the other books that my normal English teachers have made me read. Usually I don't like them very much. I don't know. There was this one book I read. It's called 1,000 Splendid Suns, about life in Afghanistan. And I did like that one. It was very sad, as expected, for the period of history that they are going over. But it was enjoyable, at least. I mean, I could understand it. It didn't have language from 200 years ago or something like that. So
yeah. Well, and maybe you could kind of relate to the characters. I mean, that's always, for me, I read a lot of different genres, but if I don't like any of the characters, I rarely will finish the book.
Well, there's usually I usually try to pick books that I know I'll be interested in. I mean,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm really, really picky when it comes to that.
Mhm.
It's been a very long time since I read the first chapter-ish of a book and I was like, nope.
Not reading that.
Yeah.
So, how do you get your recommendations?
Oh, just I don't know. I'm friends with the librarians for
Oh.
in my middle school, elementary school, and high school. So they know my name and they were like, "Hey, Sarah, read this book," or
Mhm.
something like that. Or I just walk down the shelves and find something that looks interesting and then I pick
Mhm.
it up and read it. That's most of the stuff. And also I have a lot of friends that are really bookish, really nerdy. And so
Mhm.
they sometimes are like, "Hey Sarah, you should read this. It's good." So
Try this. Yeah. Uh-huh. So that's cool. So, do you go to the public library too?
not anymore. Not really. I used to a lot.
Mhm.
For the comics when I was 10 or 11 or something like
Mm,
that.
mhm.
Yeah, but I've been blessed to have a middle school and high school that have had very good libraries. So I have
Fantastic.
not had to go to the public library except for anything besides manga. I would totally go to the public library for manga. They have a very large manga selection.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I only heard about that word just recently and I'm like, "What? What is that?" So
Actually,
tell what that is to the people who
yeah,
don't know what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, okay. um, the funny thing about that is that I actually got into manga, anime, etc. Over 2020 because what else are you gonna do
Right.
during summer? Stuck inside. But so before 2020, I would go to my friend who's really into that kind of stuff, and I was like, "Oh, isn't that like those backwards Japanese comic books or something?" So yeah, that's a perfect description for someone who doesn't know anything.
Right.
Manga is those backwards Japanese comic books that that is just like rows and rows of the exact same looking book on a
Uh-huh.
shelf in a
Uh-huh.
library, and that's manga.
My department chair studied pottery and taught English in Japan for 5 years. And she said they have what we would call comic books or graphic novels on all kinds of different subjects like history or just like folk tales or something like that. Do you read those kind too?
No, I don't. I'm not very I'm not very well versed in anything other than fantasy,
Mhm.
my own my own genre, action adventure. So I probably should, you know, read something else, historical fiction, realistic fiction. But I as of right now, no. I just I just
Well,
read
no,
chosen one
you
through three.
you don't need to because at some point as you get older, you may find the book that hooks you in a different genre and then you'll start to expand. But for now, just read what you like. That's it.
Well, they do say that if you're an author, you have to read in your own genre specifically. So I
Definitely.
just read fantasy, and I've stuck with fantasy, and I like it.
Mhm. Yes, really. Because there are so many what tropes and I don't even know what all the tropes are for all the like sci-fi and fantasy. But I mean, I just sort of know them instinctively. I don't identify them and say, "Oh, that is a trope and that's a trope." And yeah, but yes, you have to be so well versed in those that you can then bend the rules, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, I also saw on your pad match something about Doctor Strange. Do you want to talk about that? Because I really like Doctor Strange. Yeah.
Great. That's amazing. So basically, I love Marvel a whole lot. I love
Mhm.
superheroes. I love supervillains. Just the whole aesthetic of condensing down like good and evil and having two people fighting.
Mhm.
That's just really appealing to the childlike portion of my brain that
Mhm. Mhm.
just like simple good and evil battles. So yeah, I really like Marvel, Avengers, stuff like that. I think all the movies are incredible, and I specifically like Doctor Strange a whole lot. He's my favorite Avenger above, you know, the favorites like Iron Man, Spider-Man, Thor. I don't know what people's favorites are.
Mhm.
Probably Iron Man is probably on that list. But so yeah, I really like Doctor Strange. I like time travel. I like the actor that they cast for him in
Yeah.
the movies. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. He's amazing. Sherlock. um,
Right. Uh-huh.
mhm. And there's this specific type of magic that I love.
Mhm.
That's where the magic manifests physically by like you drawing symbols in the air.
Oh,
I don't see that very often, but I love like symbol magic that's physical. And Doctor Strange has that, and it's
mhm.
really cool to invite because of
Mm.
that, because I like that type of magic. So I like them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. That is cool. Plus the whole multiverse thing. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy, yeah, that's gonna be confusing for sure. But I am excited for the sequel coming out. So
Yeah, me too. So, have you seen any of the television shows like WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye? Have you seen any of those?
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I've seen. Well, actually, the only one that I have not seen is Falcon and the Winter Soldier
Mm,
because I am not really invested in any of their characters that much, but I really
mhm.
do like Loki and I like Wanda and I like Hawkeye. So I watched all those.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. And Black Widow. Oh, no, that was a movie. She
Yeah,
didn't have her own show.
it was a movie.
Oh, that's right. I get so confused. Well,
but
we don't have any children of our own, but we have young nieces and nephews who are still in high school. Well, our niece now is in college, but when they were in high school and middle school and elementary school, they loved Marvel. So they're the ones who got us into it. So yeah. So we like them too. We like that too.
that's good.
Yeah. Old people can like Marvel. I'm just saying that, if you're an old
Okay.
person, go try them. Well, I mean, I've heard a whole bunch of older people say, well, I wasn't really going to read the Harry Potter books, but my grandchildren got me into it, which I was like, oh, yeah, cool.
I need the younger people to help me stay cultured.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's kind of why we read Harry Potter too, is because we have older nieces and nephews now who have their own children and they loved Harry Potter. And so that's kind of why we got into that too. But I'm just up for any good, well-written fiction that has characters that learn something and grow and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I like historical fiction a whole lot. I've learned a lot about history from historical fiction.
I have not read much, so
Yeah,
historical.
eventually you will, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I could become an English teacher and to my students, hey, read this.
Right. Yeah.
I'm in English 12 right now, and I was required to read a historical fiction novel called Codename Verity. It was about. Have you heard of it?
I have it on my TBR list.
Okay, it's actually really good. I don't read historical fiction, but it
Yeah.
was a story of a spy captured during World War II, and it was basically her story about like interrogation and giving stuff away and stuff like that. And she basically, the concept of the book is that she made a deal with her interrogators that if she were to write out all the information that they needed, then they would give her 2 more weeks to live and then 2 more weeks to live and stuff like that. So she's
Mhm.
basically bargaining for her life and writing her story, which is really cool. So it's like she's writing the book in the cell that she's in, and I loved it. I
Yeah.
I don't read historical fiction, but it was really good historical fiction.
Yeah. Isn't that Ken Follett? Is that Ken Follett? Did he write that one?
I don't know.
Oh, I'll have to look that up and put it in the show notes because I do have it on I do ebooks exclusively because I have two bookshelves in my office. My husband has bookshelves in his office. Almost every room in our house, except for bathrooms, have bookshelves. So almost every room, not every room. So I just don't have room for physical books anymore. So it's all ebooks. But yeah, I'll have to go look that one up because I have looked at, when I have this drought and I don't know what to read, I have looked at that one. And should I read that? No, I'm going to go read this other book. But one of these days I'll pick it up. Yeah.
Well, it has an endorsement from someone who does not like historical fiction, but ended up liking that book. So.
Yeah, good. Okay, great. See, you might at some point pick up another one and like it.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Another historical fiction. So you're about to graduate. When do you graduate? In June? May or June?
May. I graduate May 25th. I can't remember the exact date.
Oh, yeah, May 25th. Okay. And then you're going off to university, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to be close to home for university or?
Yeah, I think it's in I got accepted to BYU, Brigham Young University in Utah. And I think that's in Provo, which is about like 15, 20-minute drive away from my house.
Oh, so really? That close? Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
I can go home on the weekends.
Woohoo! Or at night for supper.
Yeah, sure. When I've run out of food.
Right. Yeah. So what are you planning on studying?
I have no idea. Maybe English.
Maybe I like it. You're just going to go decide what you want. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I tell my college students that when they're like, I don't know what to major to declare. And I said, well, college is all about exploring anyway. So just as long as you can.
Just find out what classes you like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, right. But maybe you'll end up being a writer.
Yeah, that would be awesome to be able to not have a day job and write as my job.
So do you have any advice for young people who have because some people don't know what they want to do, but some people do. So do you have any advice for those who think they already know what they want to do?
Well, if you already know what you want to do, then that's great. I mean, there's an outline for you in life. You know what you like, what your passion is. Mm-hmm. You know what classes to take if you're in college or if you're in high school, still in school. Mm-hmm. And it's great if you already know your passions and already know what you like as a person early on. If you don't, then that's completely fine. Just keep going.
Right.
Just discover what you like. Everyone likes something. Everyone has talents. Everyone has interests. So just keep on going and you'll find something you like.
Yes, I always tell my students when they go, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And some of them in the college that I teach at are in their 30s. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I said, well, don't worry about it. I didn't figure out what I wanted to be until I was 53. So you've got time to figure out who you want to be when you grow up. Don't worry about it. Just keep going forward. Well, it's been such a delight to talk to you. Do you have anything else you want to say or any books you want to recommend to our listeners?
I have way too many books to possibly recommend. Let's see. Okay. One of my favorites is called Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And it's very accessible because it's a Netflix series. So if you don't want the book, then just watch it. And it's really good. I will sponsor the adaptation and say that it is fantastic as someone who is a major fan of the books.
That's so cool.
I'd recommend the Netflix series and the book series, Six of Crows, Shadow and Bone. It's this huge universe called the Grishaverse. So that's
my niece who's a freshman in college really likes that series too. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I liked the series. So now that's another series that I'll probably end up reading after I watch the series because I like to do it that way.
Okay.
Watch them first. Yeah. Well, and Audra, the person I was talking to, Audra and Stacy, they both really like that series. So they said, yeah, go read that. So I was talking to you about them earlier. Well, this has been so much fun. thank you for being my guest.
Yeah, no problem.
Before I go, I'd like to give a big shout out to Podmatch, which I call a dating service for podcasters. Since I joined their platform, I have met so many wonderful people from all over the world, and they make the matches so easy that if you are a podcaster or you have a message that you want to share, you might want to consider checking them out. The affiliate link is at the bottom of my show notes on my website at Sage-Woman Chronicles at sagewoman.life. Part of what I love about them is that they promote civil conversations, and can't we use that right now? So if you check them out, tell them Lucinda sent you. I'd also like to invite you to my Patreon community, where we will have chats with authors or creators. We'll have member chats about the stories that they love, and occasionally we'll have extra episodes or uncut episodes of Story Power. So please go check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/storypower without the hyphen, all one word. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. You'll find the show notes for this episode at my website, Sage-Woman Chronicles at sagewoman.life. You can leave a comment there. And remember, as Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.